New census projections predict that the nation will become minority white in 2045. Take a second to think about what that could mean. I, as part of the minority that would be becoming the majority, am very interested to find out what this means for the U.S. as a country. Regardless of your racial identification, this statistic indicates significant change that will impact the country and affect you in one way or another. My purpose is to persuade you to support legislation offering a path of citizenship for young people who receive DACA. DACA is an executive action created by Obama in 2012 that means Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. It meant that ICE would defer from using removal proceedings for people granted DACA. Along with deferred action, the DACA application provides the applicant with a work authorization permit that must be renewed every 2 years. However, when Trump entered office in 2016, he challenged the executive order and attempted to end the program. However, according to the USCIS website, there are over 700,000 active recipients, which makes the successful termination of DACA nearly impossible without something else being implemented to take its place. DACA has been in Supreme Court proceedings since, and its recipients wait in limbo to hear the ruling. Today we will be discussing why DACA recipients are a critical part of U.S. society, and what some of the options to replace it that have been discussed are. DACA recipients have become a large part of the current society as we know it. 90% of DACA recipients are going to work, school, or enlisting in the military. According to the article, A Demographic Profile of DACA Recipients in the Front Lines of Coronavirus Response, that was published on April 6, 2020, over 200,000 DACA recipients are working to protect the health and safety of Americans. That is, 200,000 DACA recipients who are classified as essential workers, working on the front lines to keep the public's needs safely met in the middle of a global pandemic. Furthermore, in 2017, it was estimated that 241,000 DACA-eligible students were enrolled in college. This demonstrates how young people who were presented with the opportunity are taking full advantage of it and working hard to improve life for themselves and become upstanding members of society. Not replacing the DACA program would be economically devastating to the United States. According to the report published by the United States Small Business Committee in February of 2018, the average annual earnings for a DACA recipient is $36,322, with many of them still attending school. Deporting Dreamers or DACA recipients could cost $60 billion and reduce economic growth by $280 billion. Contributions to critical public programs like Social Security and Medicaid could drop significantly, because as of 2018, DACA-eligible workers contribute $1.4 billion in federal taxes, $2 billion in Social Security taxes, and $470 million in Medicare each year. Clearly, repealing DACA without replacing it with something similar would displace over 700,000 people who have become essential parts of the United States workforce, and it would leave a void in the U.S. economy. These implications are understood by many in Congress, but there are still resistance to the creation of legislation that supports DACA or Dreamers. Since its introduction to the Supreme Court in June of 2019, there has been no clear ruling and many attempts from Congress to correctly pass legislation. All are yet to be successful. Everyone agrees that there must be something to take DACA's place if removed. However, Congress can't seem to reach a compromise that meets both parties' interests. The Trump administration has expressed that they would consider offering a path to citizenship for those who would lose DACA privileges in exchange for approving funds for the border wall between Mexico and the United States. This compromise has been problematic because of the extreme amount of money being requested to build the wall, with currently $18.4 billion already spent on the construction of the wall. the the Democrats are wary of providing more money to spend on it. The worry by the Trump administration is that the belief that offering a path to citizenship would encourage more illegal immigration into the United States, which is their reason for requesting large amounts of money to help reinforce the wall. But providing that funding has been a very difficult decision for Congress to reach. Another request that has been made in exchange for creating legislation that would offer a path to citizenship is lowering the current legal immigration quotas to make up that for the people that would become citizens through this pathway. However, most of the drafted paths to citizenship are very slow and would require the applicant to demonstrate that they have been in the U.S. for an extended period of time before the legislation was passed, as well as showing good character and history in the United States. Also, many of the people who would be eligible for this pathway have lived in the United States anyway and have been important parts of it economically and socially. Ultimately, the era of DACA may be over, but that decision still hangs in limbo at the hands of the Supreme Court. But it cannot be over without something to replace it. DACA recipients have been far too essential parts of the United States' economic and social structure. Therefore, mass deportation is not an option. But there has been many disagreements within Congress on how to solve the dispute, with many possible compromises but none successfully reached. There is much change coming in the next couple of years, along with how the United States will look as a country, but we must embrace it and accept those changes with open arms and use them to improve ourselves and remain the country of opportunity. In order to do this, we must support the legislation that supports a pathway to citizenship for DACA recipients.